Hello all, in this video we will talk about constructors. Okay, now we all know how to create objects in Java, right? So it's a three-step process basically. So what we do is, first we create a reference variable and then we create an object on the heap, and what we do is we assign the reference variable to the object. So when we do this, what happens? To invoke instance variables and the methods on this duck object, you go via this reference variable, right? Now in this process, if you look carefully, the object creation part, new duck off. So what are we doing? First you are using new keyword, which is a Java keyword, and then you are using the class name, like object for like class for which you have to create an object. Okay, and then you are using the parenthesis, new keyword, class name, and then the parenthesis. Now you might get one doubt. Whenever you use parenthesis, usually when we use parenthesis while declaring or defining a method or invoking a method. So here, if you are using parenthesis, are we actually invoking this duck-off method? Yes. So, but this duck-off, we don't call this as a method, we call this as a constructor. Okay, this duck-off is called as a constructor. So first, what are we doing? You are using the new keyword, and then whenever you call this duck-off, this is called as a constructor. Okay, so while creating an object, what we are doing is we are invoking a constructor. So what is a constructor and why are we using it? So constructor is, as the name says, constructor is used to construct the object. Okay, now but till now, if you look here, what had happened, like whenever you create any class, what we have done till now, you just created a instance variable and then you are creating the methods, but we have never declared any method duck off, right? If you look here, you did not declare any method duck off, then but still it works. Like even if you go and create an object duck d equal to new duck off, it works. How is it working? Because I did not write any constructor here. I am saying that whenever you are using this new duck off is actually a constructor and it gets invoked in the background, but I did not write any constructor. So what JVM does is, even though you don't write any constructor, it gives one constructor for you. Okay, it gives you a default constructor. So how that constructor looks is, so it looks like this. So even if you don't write any constructor, what JVM does is it writes a constructor for you like this. What it does is it will give you a public access modifier, and then it will give you a class name, and then you will have the parenthesis inside which you don't have any parameters, and then what happens is you will have open and close brace. This is called the constructor. Then how is it different from the method? So this is a method, right? This is the method that you have written in the duck class. Okay, this is the method you have written, but how is it different from the method? So if you look carefully, for methods you will have the return type. Though it will not return anything, you should specify void return type, but for constructor you are not doing it. And for methods you can have your own name, but for constructor you should specify the class name. Okay, so the rules for writing a constructor is, the access modifier, here it is default, here it is public because JVM has written for us, but usually you can use any access modifier. You can use private, you can use public, you can use protected. Okay, and then access modifier is followed by the class name, and then it is followed by the parenthesis, open and close parenthesis. Inside that you can have arguments also, that we will discuss in some time. Okay, so the rules for writing a constructor is use the access modifier and then use the class name, and then the same, like inside this you can have any logic, like you can put any logic, like how you write logic for the method, you can do the same. The only difference between a constructor and the method is, constructor will not have any return type defined, and the name of the constructor should be the class name. Okay, now as what happens is whenever you do this new duck of, since you did not write any constructor, JVM writes one for you, which looks like this, and inside this, since there is no logic, what happens is it will just go on create an object. Okay, and when is this constructor getting invoked? So the constructor gets invoked even before this object is handed over to the reference variable. Okay, now since the object creation is 3-step process, even before this object is assigned to the reference variable, this particular constructor gets invoked. Okay, now why do we even need the constructor? Let us assume that you have a duck object. Okay, this is you are creating the ducks, but you want to create ducks of different sizes. Okay, few would be of very small size, and few would be of normal size, and few would be of bigger sizes. So while creating the duck itself, you should specify the size. Like, just imagine a scenario where you create a duck object but you did not specify any size. And in the real world, does duck exist without any size, with 0 size? No, right? It doesn't, like, it won't exist. So while constructing the duck itself, you should provide the size. It's not like that you construct the duck with 0 size and later on you provide the size. It should not happen that. Few state things has to be set even before, like while constructing the object itself. Like for the duck, you have to specify the size. Okay, but few things can be added later. Like if you want to decorate the duck, later on you can decorate the duck with clothes, and that can happen later. But size should be specified while constructing the object itself. Otherwise you can't even see the duck, right? Because if you create a duck with 0 size, you can't even see that. And there are instances like this where you have to provide few things while constructing the object itself, not after the construction of the object. And let us assume, let's say you are creating a database connection class. Okay, you have to specify, like you are saying that you are creating the database connection object, and then while constructing the database connection object itself, you have to specify the URLs, username, password, and the connection URL. It's not that you create a database connection object and later on you set the connection URLs. So it won't work like that. Okay, so these are the instances where you need to provide something during the construction of the object itself. Okay, now here for the duck, what I have to do is I want to provide size during the construction of the object itself. So for that, what I can do is the constructor, whatever that was provided here, is not accepting any argument, right? It's not accepting any argument. So what I want some size to be specified for the duck object. So what I can do is, let's say I can do like this, size equal to some default size. I can set it up. Okay, some default size I can set it. Now what I'll do is I'll write a method to get the size of the duck, and then we will see how it is working. Get size of, okay, and then return this dot size. Okay, now let me go and create an object. Okay, I'll not do like this. First let me go and create the object. I had created the object, and what I'll do is I'll print the size, d dot get size of. Okay, now new duck of. So now if you see here, let me show. You are not passing any size. Okay, you are not passing any size. But you are not passing any size, but still you got the size of the duck as 20, because what had happened is I have provided a size as 20 in the constructor. I did not use any set size of method. If you see here, I just did duck d equal to new duck of, and then I am getting the size of the object. It has given you 20 size. How did it even happen? So if you look at the duck class, what I have said, this particular constructor gets invoked while constructing the object. It gets invoked in the middle of construction of the object, and then if you look at what I have done is I have provided the size. So all ducts that gets created will have, by default it will have some size, okay, 20. But what let's say, as I said, the ducts are of different sizes, okay. Now you can't initially specify some default size and later on you can change the size. Let's just compare this with a real world duct, okay. While constructing the duct itself, it will have some size, okay. After, like, it's not that you construct an duct object with some size and later on you change that. It will not happen, okay. So what I want is, I want to specify size of the duct while constructing the object itself, okay. Now what I can do, I want to pass the size here itself while constructing the object. We can still do that. Even for the methods, what we do, we can have few methods without any parameters and we can have few methods with parameters. So the same goes for constructor as well. We can have the default constructor where it will not accept any parameter, and what we can do is we can have constructor which can accept some parameters. Now if you see here, I am providing a way to provide the size of the duct object while constructing the object itself. So if you see here, what I can do is I can pass 30 because I want to create a duct of size 39 here, and let me run and see what had happened. So if you see here 39, what happens is when you see this new duct of 39, it goes here and it will search for the constructor. So how it identifies the constructor? It sees whether it has any whatever the access modifier. Let us assume that it considers the access modifier as public, and then what it searches is, it searches for the things that did not have any return type, okay. For these two things it did not have return type, and it searches for the name duct because the class name is duct, okay, duct. And then later on, if you see here, it is passing one argument and it is passing the integer argument, okay. It will search for the constructor which has integer parameter specified, okay, and then it invokes this. Like, let's say you don't pass anything here, what it does is, let's say you don't pass anything, it will invoke this particular constructor, okay. So you can have multiple constructors, but the thing is, you should you should have some change in the parameters. Like here you did not have any parameter, here you can have another parameter, and you can have another constructor with 2 or more parameters as well. You can still do that, okay. Now if you look here, what had happened, you have created a duct object of 39 size, and when you do this d.get size of, it worked fine, okay. So here you can have the overloaded constructors as well. Now let us do one thing. Now in few cases, what I want is, I want size to be specified by the creators, object creators itself. Now whoever is creating the object, they should specify the size. So this I don't want. Let me remove it. Will this work? Let's see. Will this work or not? Java, okay. Let me run this. So if you see here, what had happened is, I had removed the default constructor as well, okay. It worked fine because I want only the constructor with the parameters, okay. Now you can have multiple overloaded constructors as well, like how we have the overloaded methods. Like in the previous videos we have discussed about the overloaded methods, right? So in the same way we can have the overloaded constructors. So here this is the default constructor where it is not accepting any parameter, okay. And if you look at this constructor, it is accepting size, and this particular constructor, it is accepting boolean value, and this constructor is accepting both boolean and the size. It is also, this constructor is also accepting both integer and the size, integer and the boolean, but the order of the parameters is different. So here if you see, first is boolean and the second is int, and here the first is the int and the second is the boolean, okay. Yeah, so to recap, what we have discussed is, so whenever you are creating an object, a constructor gets invoked. Okay, and the rules for creating the constructor is it should have any access modifier, private or public or protected, and it should not have any return type, and the name of the constructor should be the same as the class name. Okay, and constructor can have any number of arguments. Okay, now if you don't write any constructor, JVM writes a default constructor for you, and that gets invoked, and constructors can be overloaded, and constructors are basically gets invoked while creating the object itself. It is basically used to instantiate the state of an object. Okay, in the next video we will talk about the superclass constructors and the invoking the overloaded constructors from within a constructor. We will talk about that in the next videos.